then we're trying to buy the business because you honestly wanted to protect the jobs. But again, think I told you the story. It's actually been told. Honestly, somebody went around to our staff knowing that we were trying to do a management buyout. We didn't have a lot of money to give to receiver, but we had to have working capital to see us through. There was no point in half doing it. And it wasn't the money,
Yeah.
although the money was helpful, but somebody went around to our staff who were about maybe, I'm guessing 60, 70 people, or certainly key guys, and he came back to me, and I remember it was the evening, right there in the evening, and he said, I'm up to 200,000. I said, well, he says, I've just asked the guys how much would you put into the business? Like, I was nearly in tears, put 2,000 business, and we
Yeah,
did
yeah.
put salary cuts. I think I misread last week and I was saying that we took big salary cuts, but we asked people to take a 10% salary cut. Because like you say, our margin couldn't cover the stuff. So it's just reality.
Yeah.
And honestly, people were thanking us. I remember just got everybody together. Nobody deserves a
Yeah.
salary cut. Everybody deserves a stable job. You can sleep tonight. Most people can live, as it goes, it was reversed within 3 or 4 months. Most people can live with a 10% salary cut when they're looking at in the abyss.
Of
And
course.
we did. We went out for a few pints and we said, right, feck it, we just have to crack. And people were thanking us. And of course, the salary cuts were reversed. People that put money in got a really good return. And it probably was a result of the goodwill that was developed there, the camaraderie between everyone, not just nothing to do, not just about me. So
Yeah.
so it does have practical benefits as well.
Well, I think when we talk about this in current for people, and I think it's well. Firstly, you either do or you don't. Like, it's either in you and it's your nature. You can't pretend it
Yeah,
because
yeah.
people smell a bullshitter a mile away. But you generally do. I've seen a payback because I have people working for me a long time. I've people who worked through the whole 2008, 2010, and people who worked obviously through COVID. And in both situations, I saw a couple of things. I saw the company was challenged, but was stable. We were never going under. We were suffering, but we weren't sinking, and that we prioritized those people that had been with us in the business. We prioritized their jobs, even if they had to take pay cuts. But they knew they were still paying their mortgage. They knew we were going nowhere. I think that means a lot to people. But I remember going in, and COVID was kind of confusing times. None of us knew what was happening. And I remember being called in, my COO calling me in at one stage because to gather everyone together to speak to them and basically go, we don't know what's happening. So I remember gathering them all out in our warehouse one day. So I was standing up on the stairs a little bit because we had to spread people out, and out, well, not outdoors, but an open warehouse, standing there talking to them. And I remember saying to them, guys, I don't know what's ahead and I don't know what we're going to have to do. We're making a month-to-month decision at the moment. There's nothing is changing, but I don't know what next month's. But so it's basically saying, I have no idea what is ahead. Will they tell us to close? Or I had no idea. And it's basically going, guys, I haven't got a freaking clue what's coming. I haven't got a clue how hard it's going to be. And you, me or the company. So it's a pretty dire thing. I was going, but look, we've no debt. We own our building. So we're solid, but this could be tough. Anyway, I'm back up to my desk. And about 10 minutes later, I got an email started coming through, and I got a couple of emails in from staff that floored me. And the emails were, something to you. I should have printed them and kept them, and I didn't. But the emails were something like, Paul, we know this is really tough on you. On me? We know this is really tough. We know this is really difficult for you and on the business. We have your back no matter what you have to do. And I'm blown away because they didn't know they didn't know if I was going to say 5%, 10%. They had no idea what I was going to ask for. They had no idea, and they're going, Paul, we have your back. And to me, I was humbled by it, absolutely floored by it. But I suppose the thing about it is you get that from people when they trust you, when they trust that whatever that you. I mean, I'm sure you'll be the same. I will hate going to the people for pay cuts. I've done it a couple of times. I absolutely hate it. It is the last thing I will have sliced everything in the company, including my own pay, before you go back to people. And fundamentally, if people know that they trust you and they know if you're asking them for something, that it's the last thing you want to do. And that loyalty from people.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
And
phenomenal.
it seems sort of fairly, simple and unsophisticated as a mentality, but you're right, it's the backbone of it. I mean, absolutely, like my wife, I think, is saying to is Rhode Island's mental health policy, but part of it is feeling control, So even the thing, even if it wasn't like the
Yeah.
strong bond you had,
No.
even standing up and saying you don't know, and one of the things guys said about
Yeah.
us afterwards, and I do know was we were cool, physically we were cool, So people were coming in. I don't know if
Yeah.
geez, I don't want to sound like a complete outfit. If the kids of today understand the danger about unemployment, about not having a job, it's probably underestimated. But when we know
Mm.
people, thankfully, we happened to me, who hadn't worked for a while, and next thing, 1 month becomes 2 months, as you say, paying your mortgage, it's a stressful time. So just
Mm.
being there, just being cool, just saying,
Yeah.
we're in control. Paul saying he doesn't have the answer to everything, but we have a strong balance sheet. I don't even know what a balance sheet
Mm.
means, but I know that we're strong as a company. We'll get through this.
Yeah.
And if they go back to their loved one
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
evening and going, Jesus, Paul spoke today. It's great, and we're stable. And they might say in the third sentence, "Oh, by the way, we're taking a 10% pay cut." It's like, grant.
Yeah. 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 Because when the shit hits the fan, 10% pay, so what? Maybe we're not going to, I don't know, go out for so many meals or have that holiday, or we're not going to change the car or something. But we're paying the mortgage. And I always say, and I mean it, that nobody works for me. Everyone works for himself. There is nobody gets out of bed in the morning to go, I want to make Adie rich. I
Yeah.
want to make Paul rich. Maybe you and I do, but everyone comes in there to work for themselves. And I hugely respect that from people. And then I go, it's my job to create an environment that when they get out of bed in the morning, to look after themselves and their families, that they go, working for Paul Ryan is the best place for me to do that. That's the environment I want to create. And so, when you talk about taking care of people, firstly, I think it is my instinct to do that. I think it's your instinct to do that. And it does sound simplistic, but the reality of it is, it's like in that situation, when you raise that 200,000 euro or pounds for the business, like it's just an enormous endorsement. And obviously, as you say,
Yeah,
it
and
turned
then
out to be a bloody
the
good
obvious thing
investment
was
for them.
then we probably needed 1 million or 1 million more. But then you go to external investors and you just say, it just happened like this. You go, look, the guys have already put in 200,000. You go, job done. That was it. Didn't even have to say anything else.
Yeah.
Didn't even have to look at the figures.
Yeah.
No, the guys are putting 200,000 in their own business. I'm in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Well, I
yeah,
mean, isn't that it? Isn't that the bottom line? And by the way, it's not just
yeah,
you guys; it's the staff. Do you know what I mean? It's the people it's not just Adie putting in the money; it's the people who work for you putting the money. It's a
yeah.
tremendous
No, it certainly
endorsement. Absolutely.
made things interesting. And then, of course, the market turned up straight away again, and we got to do. Yeah.
So you were
It was a
lucky
good
again.
time. I mean, obviously, if you dwell at that level, I think we would have got through. We just have to keep cutting.
Yeah.
We didn't have a strong balance sheet. That's why we wanted to raise some money. We said, we don't want to raise money and go under. If it didn't
Mm.
turn up straight away, we would have been okay. But it did, and yeah, doubly good.
Mm. I remember, could have been around 2009 or 10. Our business is now 50%. We had a consultant at the business at the time. I'm going to say an old guy. He was probably in his 70s. Doesn't seem that old to me now, but Simon's again. And I remember going out to one day. His name was Pat Smith. Maybe some people aren't know him, but sat down on one day in his offices, and he said to me, "How are things, Paul?" And they'd been working with us for a long time. And I started, on my response, I started going through the numbers with him, because that's what he did. He said, no. I said, I didn't ask you about the numbers, Paul. I said, I asked you, how are you? And I kind of went, how am I? And I said, I'm pretty damn good, Pat. He goes, how is that? I said, well, I said, because in the last 6 months, I said, we've hit the bottom. I said, it was like on the top of a cliff and we fell down. I fell to the bottom and I looked around and I go,
Not bad.
gee, and I don't mean financially. Obviously, it was hurt. I'm like, do you know what? I'm paying my mortgage. I'm happily married. I have great kids. I have a good family. I have good friends. Like, if this is life for me, I'm not in the Ukraine. You know what I mean? So I mean, we live in a very privileged first world society. I think that was the realization for me. Going, if this is my life here, it's pretty damn good, and I'm grateful, and I'm grateful for it. And I think, not to get into the woo stuff, but that level of appreciation and gratitude for everything we have, I think is enormously important. But the journey for you continued on then, because I think 3 or 4 years ago, and I can remember talking to you around the time this was happening, Um, Sigmar was then ultimately acquired by the very, very big
Yeah.
French
And again,
company.
relationships, yeah, we did a sell side guy, they had a buy side guy, but we spent a lot of time in relationships. First 3 hours, they had a broker in the room, and there was three guys. It wasn't very good for diversity, and we mean that we certainly should be doing. And there's three of us, and we were talking for 3 hours, and they were talking about their
Mhm.
feelings and themselves and their family. And I'm like exactly like you, very blessed.
These are the
No, no,
brokers
no,
or
no.
these
They
are
had a
the
broker to
French
buy a
company?
company, so these guys are in for a percentage of the
Yeah,
deal.
yeah.
Yeah,
They were
yeah, but they were
connecting with
chatting,
you
and then
guys as
we
on a
stopped
human
after
level.
3 hours. And the brokers, we had a sell side guys, they were both on a big fee, and they're going like, "Would you get on with it, will you?" And but anyway, the point is,
Do the deal.
truthfully, Jesus, I sound like I'm become the hippie. We spent a lot of time with the relationships. They're not, I am a bit,
Oh,
I
you are a
am,
bit of a
but
hippie. Let's be honest.
yeah,
Well, it's
but we
no
love them.
different.
They're great. They're not a PLC, and again, we've gone through tough times. We've
Yeah.
gone through COVID together. The earnout calculations can sometimes get tense. Really good guys, big ambitions. They're 2 billion. We've just bought in Italy. We've just bought in Netherlands. Again, it was a family business, and actually shared those stories multiplied by 10. They told the exact same story about 2009 that he's passed away. A legend, Jean-Marc, the owner of the business, got everyone together and said, "Look, we've a strong balance sheet. Nobody's going to lose their job," and basically had that loyalty for the next sort of 10 years afterwards. But yeah, it's been a really interesting experience. And I mean, just one point when we're chatting, we don't sound smug about being in small businesses that we can do these things because people ask us in a talent business, how can a small SME compete with a big multinational, compete with a Google or a Meta or a Pfizer or an IBM? Because they control share options,
Right.
bigger salaries, fuzzball tables,
Yeah.
nice canteens, basically everyone says. But that sincerity is
Yeah.
how we
Yeah.
can compete. And not always do it. But it's
I
not
agree.
sounding smug. I mean, big companies are big companies because they're big, and it's hard to do these things in scale. It's not like we going, aren't we so clever? Maybe in recent times, when the
Yeah.
authenticity of the messages, particularly coming obviously from X and Meta, uh, were shown to be very inauthentic,
Yeah.
which probably confirmed our suspicions. But I don't,
Yeah.
we don't sit there going, aren't we great and wonderful that we're a small business? There's small business and there's big businesses, and good
No.
luck to them as well. We need them. They're our clients, they're your clients, our friends work there,
Yeah.
and it's
No.
not like it's not like we think we have it sus and they don't. They're just bigger.
Well, I
Uh,
don't. I think there's just something different, and I suppose. Yeah, I mean, our business, it's a requirement to keep a huge amount of stock. So we will have millions of euro worth of stock, and we would be conscious of then you have you're competing with a competitor who's $1 billion business and their resources global. It's very, very different. So, um, our view has always been we can't be them. I mean, my view is that we own a small boutique hotel in Dublin. If you want to stay in a Hilton, they have a Hilton in every city and every across there, and you know what you get when you go in. But it's not like walking into a small boutique hotel where when you walk in, they go, "Hello, Mr. McGuiness, how are you? Thank you for coming back." And there's just something small and personal about it. So what we focus is on being that boutique hotel in their business and having a huge amount of part. And I was listening to the guy who built Air Aaron recently, and he said one word is important in the airline business. He said one word is safety. And I thought that's really interesting. So what's the one word in my business? It's the one word in my business is service. So what we do is we take extraordinarily good care of our customers, because we can't compete with the big boys, but they struggle to compete with that. So it's just about at one stage I wanted to be like the big boys, and now I'm going, hold a sec, this is who we are. So let's just really be so good at what we are that it's very, very hard to compete. And they still compete with us, but that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So now you've stepped away from the business, and I know you get to ride your bike and go for swims in the ocean. What's life like on the other side? You're not quite retired. You're
Yeah,
still chairman, but you're
it's great
semi-retired. What's
again, the
life like on the
privilege.
other side
It
of it?
has the point you made when you were talking about this podcast, Paul. I have to say, gets you thinking and going that people spend all their life maybe building up a business, whether they own it or they're senior manager in it, and maybe sometimes work too hard in it, and like you, and blessed with family and all that type of stuff. In fact, my mom and dad are still alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I met them at
Consider
your
myself one
60th.
of the luckiest people
Amazing.
ever born of mankind, but I'll tell you my full maths on that at some stage. But it is interesting
Yeah.
and it does make you think, I'm blessed to be able to do it. And I speak to a lot of people. There is a business.
Yeah.
I'm half thinking about advising people coming up to retirement. I've been advising them for years. But this stuff about purpose, I mean, obviously to
Yeah.
stay mentally, physically, and socially engaged is something I think people do naturally. But now we know that's good for mental health. But you think about this, and I bet you have, and you've
Yeah.
probably spoken to other people. All the course you do over your life about training and leadership, about setting goals, having a vision, doing a plan,
Mm.
setting goals, setting plans. And then all of a sudden you're blessed in your early 60s or 60 or even late 50s to say, right now I've got freedom.
Yeah.
And where does all the goal setting and all the rest come from, you know?
Yeah.
And we all say, okay, we got to sit down and go, what are
Yeah.
the things I'd love to do? And you're right, swimming and cycling. I use the word love. I do love to do, so I do. I also golf and I do a bit of traveling.
Yeah. Yeah.
And horses, yeah, and I own a few horses.
And
So I'm
horses.
blessed, but I probably,
Yeah.
and I have a few investments that I spend time with, but I'm probably not the only one. And it's harder, you're probably harder than it sounds to actually sit down and go, well, I do have some years left. And what do I really want to do with that? You know, it is that
Mm.
be careful what you wish for, isn't it? A bit.
Yeah. Well, it is. Maybe I've told you this before. When I was 17 years of age, my last year in school, I went to a Christian Brothers school, and Christian Brothers are
Yeah.
quite tough guys. I don't know if you know Christian Brothers, but so I'm 17 years of age. You know, we've maybe a couple of months left in school, and our teacher doesn't turn in. It's 9 o'clock in the morning, so it's like 30 odd guys in the room, all boys school. And so 15 minutes later, it's chaos in the room. It's absolute mayhem. And anyway, incredible noise, screaming, shouting, all of them. The door bursts open and this young Christian brother stand there, head to toe in black. This young guy, and he storms to the top of the room.
Yeah.
And if you remember, that was the time of corporal punishment. They all had a leather and to beat you with. Storms to the top of the room and he roars at us to be quiet. And we become quiet instantly because if these guys say quiet,
Yeah.
I mean, there's no messing. You step out of line, you're getting a beating. We all just shut up immediately. 35 teenage boys looking at this guy. And I reckon we're in for trouble. Someone here is getting a beating or we're getting punished or something. And he tells us all to close our eyes. And he takes us into a meditation. I didn't know what meditation was. You said you didn't know what culture was. I'd never heard the word. I was 17 years. He took us into a meditation. And for the next 20 minutes, I experienced
Well,
the most blissful thing I've ever experienced in my life. I never experienced I had never experienced anything like it. I've experienced it often since, never anything like it. And I touched something in that 15 minutes that was the most remarkable thing I've ever experienced. It was unbelievable. So anyway, remember going home the day going, I got to learn how to do this. And I went home, I couldn't do it. And then 2 years later, thankfully, my father sent me in a course and I was trained how to meditate. And I've told you before, I was 40 years ago. I've meditated every day since. I've been to India. I'm obsessed with it. But what that did for me very early on was I experienced that period of inner peace. And for the rest of my life, right or wrong, it's always been my predominant goal. I mean, am I connected to that place of inner peace? And that comes before everything. So maybe that's made me less ambitious than other people because I'm going, well, you can give me 10 million, but
Well.
if I lose inner peace, I have nothing. I have inner peace and I don't have the 10 million. I still have everything. So maybe it's made me less ambitious, but that's always been my goal to experience of that. So thankfully, like you now, I now have, it's not that I haven't worked very hard in my life. I have, and I've had very stressful, hard years as well, because you need the resources. But certainly, so for me, in these years of having the time freedom and financial freedom, that's always been my priority. So certainly, like you, now I do work with some other CEOs who I think have worked enormously hard, have never known what inner peace is, don't know what fulfillment is, don't know purposes. And I really have a passion. Part of the show, but some other things I do as well, is to really connect people to that. Because I do think you get to 60 and you go, okay, I've done all this, but I have a lot of time left. and I've a lot I can give back.
That,
and
that is amazing.
you know,
I mean, that's brilliant.
I think
Fair play to you. You should do a podcast. That's brilliant.
yes. What do you know what, Adie? Here's the thing. You've such a great story that as soon as I start a
That
podcast,
is
I'm
brilliant.
going
No,
to get
look,
you
well
on.
done.